this case affected you?
I think about it every day. I believe she met a monster.
She was by herself in a remote part of the parking lot. Next thing you know, the guy's at her door with a handgun.
I saw the suspect making his way into my sister's car and driving her car away. My heart sank immediately.
I felt like every second maybe was slipping away from us. Time was of the essence.
We had public searches. The whole community was there.
It means so much. Our family could not go through this without them.
I never let myself doubt that she wasn't still with us.
They got a break in the case when her car was found.
I saw it sitting there, so I came back around.
In my opinion, the suspect put it out there for law enforcement to find it. I think it's just part of his sick game.
What was your greatest fear as you approached her car?
That her body would be in there. It's like staying on the edge of the abyss.
March 13th, 2022. It was early on a chilly Sunday morning, and Casey Valley was filled with a nervous tension. He couldn't locate his sister Naomi, who had failed to return home after work. When was the last time you saw your sister?
It was a Friday night. I told her that the dome light was on in her car, to which she gave me a very characteristic teenager eye roll, and we both went to bed after that.
Naomi had been living with her older brother for less than a year, while her parents were overseas on a diplomatic mission for the U.S. State Department. Naomi had her own car and a good job at the Panasonic plant in Sparks, Nevada. Was she supposed to work the next day?
Yes.
The diligent 18-year-old left for her shift before 5 every morning. When did you expect to see her the next time?
I expected to see her Saturday night, but sometimes she didn't come straight home. So when I went to bed at 8 o'clock and she wasn't home yet, it wasn't that strange. But I fully expected to see her the next day.
When did you realize she was actually missing?
On that Sunday, I texted her a couple times. I didn't hear from her. I started getting really worried.
Casey tried to be patient, but within a few hours, he shared the unsettling news with his parents.
I called my mom. She hadn't heard from her since Friday night. That was odd. We started reaching out to friends that also hadn't heard from her. At that point, we knew that there was a problem, and I called the police department.
But the officer Casey spoke with wasn't ready to launch an official missing persons investigation. Did he say why?
He said that there wasn't enough to go on. He said that she's an adult, she's allowed to not answer her phone.
Were you angry?
I was very upset, and he refused to take my report. He didn't send out a be on the lookout or anything.
Casey turned his frustration into action. He began retracing his sister's last known movements on his own, starting with a call to the Panasonic plant. Did she ever show up for work on Saturday?
No, she did not.
Had she ever missed a day of work before?
No, never. He didn't know what was going on. This is not like her.
As Casey's concern grew, he considered other possibilities. Could something have happened to Naomi on the way to the plant? He called hospitals and even the local jail. Then he raced to the Walmart parking lot, where his sister caught the shuttle bus to work every morning. What was your plan when you headed to Walmart?
The plan was to find the security people and ask them to help us with her door.
Naomi's security team to let him review surveillance video. They focused on the time frame between 4:40 and 5 a.m. when Naomi would have gotten there.
It took us close to an hour to find the right footage. We eventually did find it.
Casey watched in silence as Naomi's car and parked in the dim-lit lot.
My sister was driving a 91 Mercury Sable, which has a very long headlight across the entire front of the car. Pretty easy to pick out in a grainy surveillance video.
What the cameras captured next will remain etched in his memory forever. What did you actually see?
That's when I saw the first video clip of the suspect. My heart sank immediately.
To most observers, the way the man walked across the lot may have looked fairly innocent. But Casey was certain that something terrible was happening.
He did a circle around the car, and then he circled back to the car.
Was it possible that it was someone she knew?
No. It looked like he brandished something.
Casey then watched in horror as the unknown man entered his sister's car and drove out of the parking lot with Naomi trapped inside.
It was hard to breathe. That's when I knew that she was really taken. I called 911 and told them that I had evidence of a kidnapping.
Detective Eric Cusmers was assigned to the case. He was alarmed by the evidence Casey had uncovered. After you talked with Casey, was there any doubt in your mind that Naomi had been kidnapped?
The minute I got off the phone with Casey, I believe she'd been kidnapped. I sent out a text to all the other detectives, and I was like, this is real.
What was their reaction?
They immediately went to work, headed up to Fernley, started gathering video surveillance, and starting the investigation.
Detective Cusmers raced to the Walmart and viewed every angle of the video himself. He also spoke with several potential witnesses. Give me a sense of how many people took the shuttle to work from that parking lot.
There's approximately 20 to 30 people that ride the shuttles.
But none of Naomi's co-workers had seen nor heard anything. Did you find that odd that they wouldn't have noticed anything unusual happening?
No. Most of the employees were likely on their cell phones, not paying attention to their surroundings.
And even if someone had looked up from their phone, there was nothing on the video that indicated that Naomi had struggled with her abductor. So there were no signs of resistance.
That's correct.
It was clear to Lieutenant Ty Joyner that even Naomi hadn't realized what was happening until it was too late. Did her abductor look like someone who didn't seem to be living in fear that he was going to get caught?
Yes, he looked comfortable in the parking lot. He looked like he had a plan to just execute it.
What happened as he approached the car?
Casey goes directly to her car and nonchalantly opened the door.
We assumed that she's likely in the dark looking at her cell phone. Next thing you know, the guy's at her door with a handgun.
Naomi's abductor then slid behind the wheel and calmly drove her car out of the parking lot.
Vehicle leaves with no headlights on. It was very clear that something happened.
How long after Naomi was abducted did the bus show up?
Less than a minute.
What did you make of that time?
It definitely appeared to be a planned out kidnapping.
Everyone on the case was now Police in Fernley, Nevada were desperate for a lead that might help them find Naomi Urian before it was too late. For her loved ones, it was a dark time filled with desperation. What did you do to search for her?
Anybody that she'd even mentioned to me in passing, I tracked them down. I talked to everybody that she'd ever really had contact with.
Talking with everyone Naomi knew was not as big of a job as it might have been with a typical teenager. Naomi had a much smaller social circle after spending years abroad with her parents.
They moved to Moscow while she was in middle school. And then they were in Germany for a couple years. She finished up her high school in South Africa.
What was it that had your family moving around so frequently?
My stepdad worked for the State Department as a diplomat.
Naomi enjoyed the globetrotting. She was exposed to new music, art, and culture. But in her heart, the teenager longed to be back home. When did the two of you develop a plan for her to move in with you?
We started talking about it about a year before she graduated high school. Naomi was all on board, really excited to come to the States and get a job, get a car, and work her way through community college.
But now, Casey feared that all of Naomi's future plans were in jeopardy. As police searched the area for the teenager and her missing car, they hoped that cell phone records might provide a lead. Were you able to track Naomi's cell phone activity?
Her residence and go to the Walmart parking lot, and then we were able to see it like the parking lot and travel to the west side of Fernley before it completely stopped communicating with the cell phone towers.
What did you think that meant?
The phone was damaged or destroyed. We had no way of tracking where she was at.
Still, investigators pursued the only clue they had.
We went to the location where her cell phone was last active, and there was approximately 50 cops from all over northern Nevada that came and searched that area.
Did you find any clues?
Nothing that ended up being relevant to this case.
Police had barely finished that grid search when a Fernley patrol officer called in a shocking report. He had located Naomi's car parked in an empty dirt lot.
It was like just driving all over looking for it, and as I was getting off here, I saw it sitting there.
Lieutenant Ty Joyner raced to the scene.
How far away was that from the Walmart parking lot?
Detectives and CSI teams from around the state responded to the lightly traveled roadway.
I just parked here and I walked over and then walked away.
Rumors of the police activity led Naomi's brother to head there too. What was your greatest fear as you approached her car?
That her body would be in there. It's like standing on the edge of the abyss.
There was no sign of Naomi in the front or back seat. Then came the moment of truth. They finally opened the trunk of the car. What did they tell you?
That she's not there.
For a few moments, Casey was incredibly relieved. But finding Naomi's car without a clue as to her whereabouts forced him to consider how the search for his sister might end. Was it hard to hold on to hope that she was still alive?
I never let myself doubt that she wasn't still with us.
Although detectives knew that Naomi's car being returned without her was a bad sign, they also believed it was still possible she was alive. Was there any evidence of a struggle inside the car?
No, not that we found.
investigators scoured the area for a clue that might lead them to Naomi or the suspect who had kidnapped her.
Were you able to find any surveillance video around the area where the car was found?
Yes, we were able to capture her vehicle being parked on video surveillance.
Could you make out who had been driving the car?
No, the video surveillance shows Naomi's vehicle being parked off a dirt road out of sight of video surveillance.
Timestamp on the video added another chilling detail.
What time was the car left?
It was around 4:30, the same afternoon after she was abducted.
Just 12 hours after abducting Naomi, her kidnapper had brazenly abandoned her car less than a mile from the Walmart where he had kidnapped her.
Why do you think her abductor chose that spot?
In my opinion, he put it out there for law enforcement to find it.
As police studied the troubling clues in Naomi Ilian's disappearance, it seemed that her abductor might be engaging them in a deadly game of cat and mouse.
What kind of perpetrator did you think you were now looking for?
Somebody who definitely knew what they were doing. He was very calculated in his plan.
Someone who perhaps had done this before?
Very possible.
Detectives had no leads on a suspect until Naomi's brother mentioned a new detail. The night before the kidnapping, the teenager had gone out on a first date with a man she had met online.
What did she tell you about how it went?
They had an okay time, and she wasn't sure if she was going to see him again or not, but she wasn't against it. I did give whatever info I had about that guy to law enforcement.
Police jumped on the lead.
They met on a social media dating website. We found him and started looking into his whereabouts during her kidnapping. He was definitely a person of interest.
Where did they go for that date?
She drove from Fernley to Reno and met with him. They went shopping at a clothing store and had some food.
Investigators were intrigued. The young man had likely seen Naomi's car, and she could have told him where and when she took the shuttle to work. When they brought him in for questioning, they pressed him for information.
What was his demeanor when he was asked about her disappearance?
He seemed very concerned.
Did he have any contact with her after they left each other?
He said he did not.
Police were skeptical until they confirmed that Naomi's date could not have been at the Walmart parking lot the next morning.
He was in Nevada during her kidnapping. He had a strong alibi. He was not involved in Naomi's abduction.
After quickly eliminating the potential suspect, forensic analysis of the Walmart video provided investigators with some physical characteristics of the man who had kidnapped Naomi.
From the video surveillance, we were able to do the triangulation. And based off that, we believe he was a 6'2".
Investigators also showed hours of footage from other businesses that might have captured Naomi's abductor aboard her car. And hard work led to the next breakthroughs.
On reviewing video surveillance, we observed that there was a truck that parked nearby. They also had next to the truck disappeared out of the camera.
Image to the image at the Walmart parking lot. Was there any doubt in your mind that it was the same man?
It was hard to say from that distance. A solo person that entered a vehicle in the Walmart parking lot, and was a solo individual where her vehicle was parked.
Although police still couldn't identify the driver, the clear images of the pickup truck he was driving were now the best lead they had.
That incident is where we really got our starting point and started looking for something real. That subject was somehow involved in her disappearance.
forensic experts worked on enhancing the video, detectives tried to make sense of the suspect's puzzling actions. It appeared he had initially abandoned Naomi's car outside of camera range and then returned to move it. How far away were the two spots?
Probably 100 yards.
The inexplicable decision left police with another tormenting question. Why do you think he went back to her car?
All of law enforcement was speculating that he left evidence in the vehicle, forgot something, wanted to wipe it down for prints one more time. In my opinion, I think he made a mistake.
Carry-on's disappearance. Police were still analyzing a massive amount of video that hopefully led them to her abductor. Meanwhile, the Fernley community was rallying around the teenager's family. Did you feel the support of the community?
Absolutely. When we had public searches, the whole community was there. When we had our vigil, there was thousands of people there.
Naomi's heartbroken parents, who had flown out from South Africa, were overwhelmed by the outpouring of goodwill.
The love of the community has been, it means so much, so much. I know our family could not go through this without them.
Naomi's loved ones pleaded with the public to come forward with any information they had. They knew that it might be the smallest of clues that ultimately solved the case.
It's like putting together a puzzle. Every piece is important.
Police agreed, and as they connected the pieces of video from different surveillance cameras in the area, they were inching closer to identifying the man who had abducted Naomi. Perhaps the most important images were the ones of the blue truck the suspect had fled in after abandoning Naomi's car. What did you learn by looking at that portion of the videotape?
We took still shots that showed the truck drive past the business. The local Chevrolet dealerships were able to identify what make and model the truck was. It was a 2500 or 3500 Chevy.
Is that a popular truck in the area?
It is a popular truck in the area. The Department of Motor Vehicles sent us a list of all 2020 to 2022 Chevrolet 2500 to 3500 trucks.
The DMV records didn't note colors, so the total number of trucks was staggering.
Basically every Chevy truck registered in the state of Nevada.
How daunting the task was it to narrow down that list?
It was going to be very difficult. We planned on looking at every single truck on that list until we found the right one.
Investigators went to work trying to zero in on their target. They carefully studied the photograph and cataloged all of the details that could be used to identify that particular truck.
There were several features such as chrome door handles, chrome running boards, color-matched bumpers. It had roof-mounted marker lights.
It had a sunroof, rear sliding window, the emblem of the Chevy bow tie on the front of the truck.
Police were able to eliminate hundreds of trucks based on their color alone, using insurance information and license plate reader cameras. But even after that huge effort, there were still dozens of trucks left to check. What do you think the chances were that they'd actually be able to find out who owned the truck on the surveillance tape?
Just going through that list, I thought it was a slim chance that they would find the truck.
The work was time-consuming and required the officer to do an in-person review of each truck.
Investigators
driver's DMV records, his hunch became a lead.
His driver's license said he was 6 feet 2 inches tall.
That made Troy Driver a physical match to the triangulation suspect in the Walmart parking lot. Lieutenant Jordan immediately contacted District Attorney Steve Rye for more information. What did you learn about Troy Driver?
Yeah, I learned that he had spent a significant time in prison for some violent crimes, that he had gotten out of prison and moved to Nevada, and that he had gotten a job in construction and had moved up to a management position.
Those details convinced Lieutenant Jordan the investigation was on the right track.
They told me that he was a registered felon. His criminal history was extensive. That 100% piqued my interest. We decided we needed to find that truck.
Driver's insurance records provided the updated answer. Where was the truck at that time?
The truck was located at the town. I contacted some Churchill County detectives, which is a neighboring county. They were able to drive by the address, do some long-range surveillance photos, and they were able to look at that truck.
As police studied the photos, they were stunned. The truck they were looking at had all of the different dealer add-ons they had identified in the surveillance stills.
His truck matched everything we were looking for on the suspect truck.
Where did the investigation go from there?
That was enough to start applying for search warrants.
The investigation was heating up, and the FBI provided detectives with more fuel for their suspicions. They had found video of that same truck being parked near the Walmart just before Naomi was abducted.
When Naomi was kidnapped, we didn't know where he parked his truck. FBI reviewed hours and hours of footage and ultimately located the truck being parked the morning of March 12th.
Identifying where the suspect had left his truck prior to the abduction allowed investigators to create a map of the likelihood the abductor had traveled. They searched for cameras between that area and the Walmart, as well as the dirt lot where he had abandoned Naomi's car.
We now can try to narrow down the focus of video surveillance to try to see him going to the truck or to the car.
The building blocks of the case against Troy Driver seemed to have fallen into place. Did you have enough to arrest him at that point?
Not at that point. Our district attorney's office wanted just one more piece of evidence.
What did you think that could be?
We couldn't say for certain, so we pushed the panic button, trying everything with search warrants and video surveillance footage.
But none of them realized that the clue that might bring Troy Driver to police had zeroed in on a suspect in the Naomi Urion abduction case. His name was Troy Driver. Investigators believed they had linked the 41-year-old's blue Chevy truck to the kidnapping through surveillance video. But police still didn't have enough to make an arrest.
You never know if it's the owner driving the truck. The video is too far away.
Detectives hoped the GPS data from either driver's work or personal phone would provide the smoking gun that placed him at the crime scene. Was there any cell phone activity on his phone before Naomi was kidnapped?
No, Troy Driver's cell phones were actively connected to towers, but they were at his residence and found them out.
The day that Naomi was kidnapped, there was zero activity on either phone.
What do you think that actually meant?
That his phones were specifically left at home so he couldn't be tracked.
Investigators were frustrated. They could only hope that the elusive piece of evidence they needed had been captured on video somewhere near one of their two crime scenes. The Walmart, where Naomi was abducted, or the dirt lot where her car was found. Did additional surveillance video ever surface?
Yes.
On the afternoon Naomi was kidnapped, Troy Driver returned to the area in her car and walked from her car directly to his truck. He made a huge mistake and he walked past a camera mounted on a pole at a bank.
The bank's video showed Troy Driver with his hood down.
It was super clear video surveillance, and you could clearly see the face. It
What was your reaction?
was definitely a gotcha moment.
The video placed Troy Driver at the crime scene minutes after Naomi's car was abandoned. It was the final piece of the puzzle. Describe to me how his arrest unfolded.
He was at work in Reno, Nevada. As he exited work for the day, law enforcement jumped out and took him into custody.
Troy Driver?
Police hoped that Driver would confess when he was confronted with the case police had compiled.
We have our suspect in custody.
Once he was in custody, did he reveal anything about Naomi's abduction? How frustrated was law enforcement when he decided to lawyer up without giving you any information about her abduction?
Very frustrating. I was hoping he'd lead us to where we could find Naomi.
Investigators went back to work, determined to find answers to all of the remaining questions, no matter how painful they might be. And conversations with Troy Driver's girlfriend moved them one step closer to their goal. You spoke with Driver's girlfriend after his arrest. What did she tell you that alarmed you?
Driver had told her that he was going camping that weekend, and he left the night before Naomi was kidnapped. When he got home, he was not acting normal. She started piecing everything together. I think she came to the realization that he had done it.
Headlines about Driver's arrest also raised the suspicions of one of Driver's co-workers. He said he had delivered an excavator to Driver at an abandoned job site in the weeks leading up to Naomi's abduction. Detectives discovered the Driver often worked alone in the remote location.
Based on that information, they started the Bergen County Sheriff's Office, drove out there, looked around, and found a spot that looked abnormal, a patch of fresh dirt.
One look at that disturbed ground left Lieutenant Joyner convinced it was time to begin the grimmest job in law enforcement.
We started marking the area, and we started to dig into that dirt to see if there was something.
How long did the process take?
20 to 30 minutes before we started getting the odor of decomposition. We called for 20 technicians to come. And they're out there for probably 15, 20 hours when we actually saw flashes in the dirt.
A closer look revealed that the victim was Naomi Irion. What condition was her body in?
Her body was well preserved. It was still cold outside, and she was buried several feet in the ground.
Naomi was naked, and the cause of her death was clear.
The medical examiner determined that Naomi had been shot twice, once in the back of the head, one more time through the chest.
Was the murder weapon ever found?
No, the murder weapon was not found.
For her loved ones, the discovery of Naomi's body extinguished their last glimmer of hope. How did you all confront this terrible, tragic news?
I was trying to comfort my mother. She passed out. Everybody cried. It was horrible. I was very upset. I was beside myself.
But within all the anger and heartbreak, there was a small sense of relief as well. Naomi was home. And the evidence police found left little doubt that Troy Driver would face justice for her murder.
During the autopsy, a sexual assault exam was conducted on Naomi, and DNA swabs were collected. Those DNA swabs showed positive for Troy Driver's DNA.
The investigation had exposed Driver's entire sadistic plot.
Troy Driver waited in the dark. He saw a single young female pulling by herself and park in a remote part of the parking lot. He was able to stalk up to her car without being seen by her. He opened her car door, brandished a weapon, and got into the driver's seat. He drove out of the parking lot, and then he drove her out to his pre-designated location to sexually assault and murder her. It was absolutely horrific. Nobody should ever have to go through that.
And you saw it all play out with the exception of the murder on tape.
Yeah, I seen her leave that Walmart parking lot. It was very tragic.
How would you characterize someone who can come up with a sadistic plan like that?
Psychopath. I can't think of any other way to characterize it.
She met a monster that morning.
But before the mountain of evidence that documented his crime could be presented to a jury, Troy Driver committed suicide in his jail cell while awaiting trial. How disappointed were you when you found out that Driver had managed to kill himself?
I was disappointed the family wouldn't get to see him get convicted in court.
Do you have any doubt that Driver would have been convicted had he not committed suicide?
I have no doubt at all.
Naomi's family agreed, and they even found a shred of solace in Driver's final act of cowardice.
He's never gonna hurt anybody again, and that's good. It was hard to think of him as human. He was just an animal.
Today, Naomi's loved ones remain committed to finding a way to move forward, while never forgetting what they have lost. How has this tragedy forever changed your family?
I mean, there's always someone missing. There's definitely a big hole there. Her room is still intact. Sometimes I just sit in there and think about her. We think about her a lot. It's brutal.
My other son just got shot. Rob! Rob!
He was gunned down in his own driveway, execution style. This was no accident.
What was the extent of his injuries?
He had a gunshot wound on his back and shoulder and a gunshot wound to the head.
People just couldn't wrap their minds around why somebody would want a firefighter dead.
Robbie! Robbie!
I dropped to my knees. I lost my best friend. My world had shattered. Sorry.
Total shock. The anger didn't come for a few days. That anger will eat at me the rest of my life.
Ballistics experts determined that this murder weapon shot 2 kinds of projectiles.
Definitely sent a chill down my spine.
There's one gun that can do that. It's a Taurus Judge.
A Taurus Judge revolver had been stolen from an Evansville pawn shop.
This is someone who really had this calculated down to every last detail.
How many levels of betrayal are there in this story?
It's almost like an onion. You keep peeling back the layers and there's more betrayal.
February 26th, 2019. It was just after 7 on a cold Tuesday night when the Evansville police got a call from a terrified Becky Dorr.
My other son just got shot. Rob! Rob!
Ma'am, I need you to listen to me, okay, ma'am? Tell me what happened.
I don't know. I just heard a bunch of popping.
As ambulances raced to her home, first responders desperately tried to get more details.
Where was you shot at? Ma'am, I don't know. It's dark. All I see is blood on the ground.
When did this happen, ma'am?
Just a few minutes ago, I heard popping. We came out and I saw my husband just laying there. Oh my God, please hurry.
Officers arrived at the scene and they were stunned by what they saw.
I'm up here at the intersection of Colorado and Oakley.
Not only had the victim been shot multiple times, but he was a friend.
Yeah, his name is Robert Dorr. He's a firefighter.
51-year-old Robert Dorr, a longtime member of the local fire department.
At what point did it become clear that it was a firefighter?
When the fire station showed up, they immediately knew who he was.
I just realized who it is.
Body camera footage in this particular case is really emotional because they're working on their friend.
He's starting concussions now. Stay with me, stay with me.
Describe the effort to save his life.
The first responders are giving it their all.
Robbie! Robbie!
It was traumatic for them as they realized that they were not going to be able to save him.
Damn it!
Oh, God, no. Oh.
Damn it!
WEHT anchor Brandon Bartlett was just up the street watching emergency workers arrive. Even from a distance, he could sense the wave of sadness.
First responders did not know what they were walking into. This is a small town. They arrive there and see this man lying on the ground. They rush over to him and then realize, wait, this is Robbie. This is one of our own.
And the magnitude of the moment really hit home after Robert Dorr was officially declared dead in his driveway.
I can't imagine what it was like for them. I can still see it in my head to this day.
A local legend had been murdered.
His co-workers loved him. He was larger than life. Several firefighters actually led a procession of Robbie's body from the scene to the coroner's office.
But the homicide detectives who stayed behind had to put their emotions aside and focus on doing their jobs.
What were some of the first steps that investigators on the scene took?
Everyone's wondering what happened. They're trying to figure out why is this firefighter laying in his driveway with a gunshot wound. There was a theory right from the beginning, was this road rage? Did someone follow him home?
On the surface, there was evidence that supported that theory. Robert had been just steps from his truck when he was hit with a hail of gunfire.
What was the extent of his injuries?
He had a through-and-through gunshot wound on his back and shoulder, and then he also had a gunshot wound to the head.
Robert's wife, Becky, was certain the attack had begun seconds after her husband had arrived home.
What did she tell investigators?
She really didn't have much information to give them. She was making dinner and heard him pull up in the driveway and then heard popping sounds.
Becky said, I heard 3 to 4 shots outside.
Did she see the shooter?
She did not.
Could investigators find any witnesses?
Nobody saw the killer and nobody saw the shooting.
And no one had even seen nor heard a car fleeing the crime scene.
It was very dark that night. This was definitely done in the cover of darkness.
Crime scene analysts scoured the area looking for any evidence the shooter may have left behind. But all they found was the bag Robert carried his lunch in. Then officers made a critical discovery.
They're canvassing the area, seeing if there's any witnesses. They're knocking on neighbors' doors. And they did notice across the street there was bullet holes. One through an awning, and then there was one left inside of the wood of one of the homes.
Investigators were stunned. The bullet damage meant that the shots had come from the opposite direction they had originally thought.
That was very helpful to investigators because with the bullets and homes across the street, they knew that they were traveling from the direction of Robbie Dorr's house.
That discovery eliminated the possibility of a road rage incident.
Because of the trajectory of the bullets, the road rage incident wouldn't make any sense. Whoever shot those particular bullets would have had to be standing directly across from those homes.
In fact, the ballistics team now believed that the Dorr's driveway was the shooter's likely position. investigators noted an area of disturbed dust on the side of Robert's truck that helped them piece together the terrifying chain of events.
Walk me through what you think happened after he got out of his truck.
I think he sees the shooter in the driveway, gets out of his truck. He's probably wondering, why is this person standing in my driveway? He sees the firearm.
As Robert tried to take cover, he bumped into his truck, leaving the brush mark in the dust.
The shots start. He drops his lunch sack. As he realizes what's happening, I think he kind of turned against his truck, tried to run away, but didn't make it very far. He was shot in the back of the head.
The details changed the direction of the investigation. It now appeared that the shooting was not a random act of violence. Robert had been murdered during a targeted attack.
That must have made his murder even more unthinkable.
Yeah, the fact that this is truly innocent victim is ambushed in his own driveway, it was really just unthinkable.
People just couldn't wrap their minds around why somebody would want a firefighter dead.
And that question was about to become even harder to answer as police discovered a flurry of clues that seemed to point in every direction. As investigators continued to collect evidence at the murder scene, Robert Doerr's daughter, Lindsay, got the call that would change her life forever.
How did you get the news that tragedy had struck?
Getting a phone call, and he said, "Lindsay, Dad's dead." And I was like, what? All I noticed, he had been shot. And my husband took the phone from me, and we rushed to his house.
When Lindsay arrived at the crime scene, she was still in a fog.
We had to park down the street, and all I kept saying was, I need to be with my dad. And I got maneuvered into the house, and I dropped to my knees. I realized I lost my best friend. My world had shattered. Sorry.
Emergency workers managed to shield the young woman from seeing the bloody crime scene. But police had some difficult questions for loved ones about a potential motive for the murder.
Could you think of any reason why anyone would hurt your father?
No, I had no idea why anybody would want to hurt him. He would do anything for anyone. He was a great guy.
He would give you the shirt off his back, the last dollar in his pocket. Robbie had no enemies in this world. He aimed to please everybody.
Robert was a role model and a hero in the community.
He had worked at the Evansville Fire Department for 28 years. A guy that when he went to a scene, he would rush into a building.
He would do whatever necessary to rescue anyone.
No one can understand why anyone would want him dead.
Robert Doerr and his second wife, Becky, lived a quiet life. He was a doting father to his only daughter, Lindsay, and she made him a grandfather shortly before his death.
What was your dad like as a father?
He was my best friend, someone I called when I needed anything. He had the funniest personality. He was a jokester. He was never afraid of anything.
Where was he in his life when this tragedy hit?
He had just gotten married. He loved her. I know that he felt like he had no care in the world.
The picture Robert's family painted of a hardworking community pillar offered few leads for police to follow. But his autopsy did provide one. The report revealed that 2 different types of ammunition had been used in the murder.
Robert Doerr was killed with both .410 shotgun ammunition as well as .45 long Colt ammunition.
We did have some fragments of bullets and shotgun shell wadding.
The clue was puzzling.
Was there any belief that Robert Dorr could have been shot by two different assailants?
It would be natural to assume that when they're investigating something, it always starts out with a really broad brush. You can even have one shooter use two different firearms.
But after careful analysis of the ammunition, the ballistics team posed a different idea.
We had a great ballistics expert from the Indiana State Police that took a look. She was able to determine that this particular murder weapon shot two kinds of projectiles. There's one gun on the market that can do that, and that's a Taurus Judge.
Taurus Judge is a revolver-style pistol. It shoots a .410 shotgun shell as well as a .45 long Colt.
That really helped us narrow down the murder weapon in this case.
Police went to work trying to connect the unusual style pistol to an owner.
How did knowing what weapon was used accelerate the investigation?
They were looking to see if there was any reported missing firearms. And in fact, the Taurus Judge was reported stolen from a pawn shop.
How surprised were they that one of these guns had recently been stolen?
I think it was a big break in the case. They knew and they got that information that they needed to follow up on it.
Police became even more intrigued when they discovered that the pawn shop was located just a few miles away from the crime scene.
They talked to the pawn shop owner and went from there.
While police began seriously investigating the possible connections between the pawn shop robbery and Robert Dorr's murder, it was a deep dive into the victim's personal life that provided the next big break on the case. While investigators continued to piece together the odd clues found in the wake of Robert Dorr's murder, it was the firefighter himself that gave the investigation a new focus. A search of his personal items revealed an unsent note he had written to his wife, Becky. In it, Robert sounded deeply frustrated and vulnerable.
He said he was someone who was really hardworking for his family, was doing everything he could to keep Becky happy, and it seemed that he felt he was putting a lot of work into the relationship, and she was not.
How long had they been married?
They were married not even a year before this happened.
Most of the details in the letter were about the couple's financial struggles. But there was also a more troubling issue raised.
He said he knew that she wasn't faithful to him.
Robert feared that his wife was involved with another man. He wrote that ever since he came back into your life, we have been drifting apart.
How did that information change the direction of the investigation?
It just tipped investigators off that potentially there were some marital issues with infidelity, but no one was specifically named in the letter.
Still, that possibility raised a major red flag. Police believed if Becky Dorr was having an affair, her lover was a prime suspect in her husband's murder.
It's an obvious other person. We're looking for motive. Who would do this? And there was no motive for anyone else to do something like this to Robert Dorr.
Investigators spoke with Robert's coworker, Larry Wilt, who confirmed that his best friend was worried about his marriage.
Did he believe that Becky loved him?
I think he hoped more than believed. Robbie was very insecure because he'd been cheated on several times before with previous relationships.
Is it true he suspected that Becky wasn't faithful to him?
He had serious questions about it, and I believe he knew more than he was letting anybody else know.
Did he ever confront her?
That I can't answer. I don't know if he confronted her or not.
But police were ready to ask Becky about the problems in the couple's marriage.
They did end up interviewing her at length. We know that she was inside the home when this happened, so it wasn't suspected that she was the shooter, but they were trying to figure out any possible motive.
Becky admitted that she and Robert often argued about money, but denied she was unfaithful to him. Investigators remain skeptical.
Police searched her phone. What did they find out?
The police did take her phone, and they could see every text message that you send and every call that you make.
The search revealed nothing that indicated that Becky had been seeing another man.
Was there anything else you got off her phone?
No, nothing of evidential value.
The once promising lead appeared to be a dead end. And while investigators were struggling to find a new one, Lindsay and the city of Evansville wanted answers. So far, all they had were whispers and innuendo.
We were hearing a lot of different things. The rumors spread like wildfire within the community. A lot of speculation. People just couldn't imagine why something like this would happen to somebody so good.
It was like torture. Someone just took my dad away from me for the rest of my life. It wasn't fair.
And as the days slipped by without a suspect, the pressure on police continued to mount.
The community was up in arms over this. A lot of people were pushing for answers to the case. It's very frustrating for families to sit and watch as evidence doesn't come together.
Police were working around the clock to connect the complex set of clues. And those pieces were about to come together in a way no one expected. Detectives trying to solve the murder of Robert Dorr were looking for a clue that would jumpstart the investigation. And for those that loved the local hero, it was a time of confusion and pain.
Getting over the initial shock took a while. The anger part didn't come for a few days. That anger will never go away. That anger will eat at me the rest of my life.
But Larry and his fellow firefighters concentrated on supporting Robert's daughter, Lindsay, as she struggled with her deep sense of loss.
The fire department really rallied around Lindsay. You become a family, and that's the way they've treated Lindsay, and that'll never change.
How did you work through your grief?
I still struggle with it. I had nightmares. I was terrified to do anything because I don't know why my dad got shot. I was terrified to leave my house.
But despite those fears, Lindsay was prepared to do whatever it took to see her father's killer brought to justice.
How much did investigators end up telling you about the details of the case?
They told me as much as they could, which wasn't a lot. They don't want to get your hopes up. They don't want to say, hey, we have a lead, and then be like, well, that lead failed.
Unbeknownst to Lindsay, investigators were making progress. The advance came with a major break in another case they believed to be connected to Robert's murder. One involving a Taurus Judge pistol stolen from a nearby pawn shop.
They followed up with the owner of that pawn shop and tied that theft to a person by the name of Larry Richmond Jr.
Did Larry Richmond Jr. admit that he had stolen the weapon?
Yes, he ended up pleading guilty to stealing that firearm.
Police were surprised that Richmond Jr., a 23-year-old with no criminal history, was involved in the theft. And their suspect seemed stunned that police were asking him about the attack on Robert Dorr.
He was pretty disturbed that this potential murder weapon was now being tied back to him.
Where did the investigation go from there?
He was very cooperative in giving information on his stealing of this firearm from the pawn shop.
In fact, Richmond Jr. told police a fascinating story about how he became involved in the crime.
Why did he say he stole the gun?
He stole it for his father, Larry Richmond Sr. His father was not eligible to own a firearm.
So he told police that his father asked him to steal that gun because he couldn't legally own one himself.
Yes, he said his father had expressed he wanted a firearm for personal protection.
Investigators believe that Richmond Jr. was telling them the truth, but the reason his father couldn't own a firearm was alarming.
What was Larry Richmond Sr.'s criminal record?
Larry Richmond Sr. was found guilty of murder in 1996. He had spent a number of years in prison and was out just shortly before this happened.
A convicted killer illegally in the possession of the unusual type of pistol that killed Robert Dorr seemed like more than just a coincidence. Still, investigators wanted to have stronger evidence when they confronted the hardened criminal. And while police searched for something to link him to the murder, another critical clue came on their radar during a routine follow-up on Becky Dorr's cell phone data.
What did they find out?
So there's what's on your phone, which we can see, but they also ordered her cell phone records from her company.
Detectives expected the two sets of call logs to be identical, but they weren't.
And one of the detectives realized that she had deleted a call.
What stood out about the fact that she deleted that one call?
Detectives had asked her at length, who did you talk to on this night? She never mentions that phone call.
Detective suspicions were raised even further when they looked at when the deleted call had been made. Less than 30 minutes before Robert's murder.
When confronted with it, they were asking her, okay, on the night of the murder for 4 minutes and 18 seconds, who's this phone number belong to?
Becky claimed she didn't remember the call.
She mentions every other detail about that night, so things are not adding up at this point.
And police believe they knew why Becky wasn't telling them the truth. They had already obtained the name of the man who owned the cell phone.
It is Larry Richmond Sr.'s phone number. We know that she's been talking to him on the night of the murder. She at first denies that she knows him at all, and then she tells many lies.
Suddenly, a grim picture was coming into focus. Larry Richmond Sr. was now the prime suspect in Robert Dorr's murder. But there was still one question looming over the entire investigation.
What made Richmond Sr. want to shoot Robert Dorr in his driveway?
And every potential answer to that question pointed in the same direction. Robert's wife, Becky Dorr.
It's almost like an onion. You keep peeling back the layers and there's more betrayal.
Investigators had found crucial links between an ex-con named Larry Richmond Sr. and the murder of Robert Dorr. But the most shocking connections were about to be revealed. The first came when detectives pressed Robert's wife, Becky, about the mysterious deleted call on her cell phone.
So who did you talk to 5 minutes before your husband was gunned down in the driveway?
She had some information that she wasn't giving to detectives.
Becky, we know the answer.
The deleted phone call came from a contact in Becky's phone as Larry Ali, with a phone number that was known by police as belonging to Larry Richmond Sr.
Police wanted Becky to explain how she knew Richmond, Her answer was stunning.
When confronted with Larry Richmond Sr.'s phone number, she says, well, that's my sister's fiance. I don't know him really.
Tell us the truth.
I didn't know anything about
Tell
that.
us the truth.
Investigators continued to turn up the heat and found out that Becky and Robert Dorr both knew Larry Richmond Sr. well.
They've been out to eat together. They've spent holidays together. We have a photo of Becky Fox Dorr. Robbie Dorr is there, and so is Mandy, her sister, and Larry Richmond Sr. So her story to investigators that she doesn't know him well at all was a lie.
Police were now convinced the only reason Becky Dorr would try to mislead them was to hide her role in her husband's murder. Investigators believed the next conversation should be with Becky's sister.
When police brought in Becky's sister Mandy for questioning, what was their plan to get at the truth?
At this point, we know a lot of information, so we're bringing in witnesses to see what stories they're going to tell.
What did Mandy reveal?
She was not aware of much. She knows her fiance is on parole for murder, but she didn't have any other knowledge as to anything else that had happened.
Police switched gears. They asked Mandy where Richmond was during the hours leading up to the attack. Her story was intriguing.
The night of the murder, they got in an argument about his infidelity.
And following those heated words about cheating, her fiancé stormed out of the house.
He said he was going to go to his parents' house. They live close by.
Police were puzzled. That timeline seemed to place Richmond at his parents' home instead of the crime scene. But there was more to Mandy's account.
She went by his parents' house and didn't see his vehicle. She drives around for a little bit, but she could not find him.
In fact, it wasn't until 30 minutes after Robert Dorr was killed that Mandy finally ran into Richmond.
Eventually, she meets up with him back at his parents' house where he's outside.
Based on Mandy's story, her fiancé was unaccounted for at the time of the shooting. Police hoped that his cell phone data would pinpoint his location, but Richmond Sr. refused to cooperate. Prosecutors then got a warrant that allowed them to crack his phone.
We received Larry Richmond Sr.'s phone, and we placed it on one of our extraction tools, which gave us full unfeathered access to the phone.
Once inside, digital forensic examiner John Carter began mining it for information. But at first, it seemed as if Richmond was a step ahead of him. There was no record of the phone having been used prior to the day of the murder.
If you were to look at this phone, it would literally look like the first phone call that he made was on February the 26th of 2019. He had deleted all call history, all text history prior to the date of the shots fired.
But there were things that Richmond couldn't delete.
What would you say was the first important evidence you found?
Geographical location data that put Larry Richmond Sr. at a gas station, a stone's throw from Robbie Dorr's residence, about 30 minutes prior to the shooting.
And then what happened in the next 30 minutes?
It goes dead. And I don't mean that the battery died. It was purposely turned off. There's no signal coming in, there's no signal going out. Then miraculously, after the shots fired, the phone turns back on.
Why do you think Richmond turned his phone off?
I believe that Larry seriously thought that if he were to turn his phone off, that he would be incognito for those 30 or so minutes, and that we think he was always at the location where his phone went off and then back on. He actually gave us more information than he was trying to hide.
That's because the gas station's security cameras told a different story. It showed Richmond pulling in, leave, and then return a half hour later. And there was more data discovered inside the apps on Richmond's phone. Investigators found evidence that he had been obsessively monitoring a police scanner.
He was listening to it for the majority of the day when the murder occurred.
What do you think he was listening for?
Firefighters and police officers, when they clock in and clock out, they call into dispatch. I believe that he was listening for Robbie to sign off from work so that he would know when to look for Robbie at his house.
That is so chilling. What went through your mind when you put these pieces together?
This is someone who really thought that they had planned out all the steps and had this calculated down to every last detail, trying to ensure that all of his tracks were covered. And ultimately, the way that he went about doing it was his downfall.
And more elements of the murder plot took shape when Richmond's own son told police about a potential motive for the brutal attack. A secret romance between Becky Dorr and his father.
His son had seen them kissing.
While there was no proof of the affair on Richmond Sr.'s phone, Becky Dorr's provided a treasure trove of information. That allowed police to retrieve records that documented the affair had been going on for some time.
They had talked since December. They're having some sort of relationship, and she's concealing it all.
Was Becky's sister Mandy aware that Becky had been seeing Larry Richmond Sr.?
No, Mandy is not aware of this at all. It was a shock to her.
Detectives believe there was more than a sordid romance behind the deadly plot to kill Robert.
Our theory is the motivation to do it was money. Elizabeth Fox Dorr, as a surviving spouse of a firefighter, stood to get 70% of his pension and an initial lump sum payout as well for his death.
But it was another miscalculation.
She thought she was the beneficiary on Robbie's insurance policies, and she was also going to be the beneficiary of his pension. But Robbie had told me several times that that money was for Lindsay and was not going anywhere but to Lindsay.
The evidence spelled out a dark, calculated plan filled with greed and lust. One that ultimately crumbled when it was exposed to the light.
The technology tells the story of everything that Larry Richmond Sr. did that night. We placed him at the scene of the crime right before it happened. We know he's talking to Elizabeth Fox Dorr, the wife of the victim. We have evidence that they're having this secret affair. We know that his son gave him a weapon that was exactly like the one used in this murder. We knew we had enough to make an arrest.
In this particular case, it took lots of smaller pieces and seeing how they connected with one another to affirmatively go in and say that this is what we believed happened.
Larry Richmond Sr. and Elizabeth Fox Dorr were arrested and charged with murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Elizabeth was tried first.
How concerned were you that this was a largely circumstantial case? Because those are very difficult to win.
It's always a concern when you go to trial, and this trial was the first one that was televised from Vanderburgh County. And so quite literally, the world was watching. The pressure was on.
The defendant in this case, Elizabeth Fox Dorr, thought she could delete a phone call and get away with murder. But what she didn't count on was the Evansville Police Department.
Have you ever been involved in any other murder case where you could vividly paint a picture about what unfolded?
Nothing as involved as this. We're trying to paint that bigger picture for the jury, trying to get them to understand all of the little nuances. In this particular case, that was something that was very crucial.
The phones belonging to Larry Richmond Sr. contacted Elizabeth Fox Dorr's number 15 times.
Robert's daughter, Lindsay, was in the courtroom listening to every word.
What was the hardest part of the trial for you?
They showed pictures. They played the interrogation video, and it just is thrown at you all at once. He was in love, and his love ended his life.
Perhaps the most chilling evidence was surveillance video that showed Richmond Sr. at the gas station shortly after the shooting.
If you take a listen, you can hear sirens in the background as he enters the gas station at 7:12 p.m., just minutes after the murder took place.
After a week of emotional testimony, the case went to the jury.
They hooked all the links together in the chain, and by the end of the trial, there wasn't any doubt that she was involved in it.
Elizabeth Becky Dorr was found guilty and sentenced to 90 years.
We finally knew exactly what happened, and 12 people found you guilty. You weren't supposed to show emotion, but I burst into tears.
But nothing about the verdict can give back Robert's family and friends what they have lost.
Robbie's still a huge part of my life. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about him. These shirts were made after Robbie was murdered. It's got his badge number covered by the traditional mourning black band. There's hundreds of these running around Evansville.
It's a fitting tribute to a fallen hero.
Everything I do revolves around just making my dad proud. I miss him like crazy. He just wanted to be loved. That's all he wanted, and it's not fair.
How did you get involved in the case?
Sheriff's office received a 911 call that there was a dead female out in the middle of nowhere.
I knew this was no hunting accident. She was totally nude.
She had a gunshot wound to the back of her head.
It looked like an execution.
An officer gave me the news that they had found her. Why would somebody do this?
I just started banging the wall. My life went blank. It was just horrible.
There had been a guy that Inez had been in the Navy with that had harassed her.
Inez had told her sister, if anything happens to me, you need to look at him.
Law enforcement pulled a photograph of his truck, and it showed a dark-headed female with him.
It was just another piece of the puzzle.
Have you ever heard a more callous murder?
The cold-bloodedness does stand out. Inez, out in the middle of nowhere, shot in the back of the head. This was just...
September 2nd, 2012. It was the Sunday of Labor Day weekend, and while much of the country was enjoying backyard barbecues by the pool, Mark Bauer and his friends had a different plan for celebrating the holiday.
We were out here recreational hunting and just enjoying our company and time out in nature.
It was around noon when Mark and his friend Tommy began a typical day of boar hunting. But first, Tommy made a life-changing decision to check on their friend in a neighboring campsite.
Tommy went up the road to check on a fella, Troy, because we had drank all night, and Tommy wanted to make sure that he was good to drive because some of the terrain out here is pretty extreme.
But what Tommy found was far more disturbing than he could have imagined.
He drove up on what appeared to be a dead girl. Tommy asked what happened, and Troy said, I found her like this.
Tommy was stunned. He raced to his campsite and brought Mark with him to the grisly scene.
Upon arriving up on the scene, it was shocking to find a female body laying on the side of the road with clothes scattered about in the brush. I knew this was no hunting accident because she was totally nude and she had a trash bag over her head. It was very, very concerning, and that's when I called the sheriff's department.
Mark's report triggered a rush of law enforcement activity.
How did you get involved in the case?
Sheriff's office received a 911 call. The individual reported that there was a dead, naked female. They arrived, they started processing the scene. They then requested assistance from the Texas Rangers.
Mark, Tommy, and Troy were waiting for investigators at the gruesome crime scene.
Was it obvious how she had been murdered?
No, she was found face down. It wasn't until they removed the bag that they were able to see the gunshot wound to the back of her head.
Did it appear as if the victim had been killed there?
Yes. The way they're able to determine that is through the puddle of blood that was surrounding the body.
Could they get any sense as to how long the victim had been there?
Not exactly, no. However, it had not been very long.
Based on those early observations, police began to formulate a theory of the crime.
Did the investigators believe that sexual violence was the motive?
Yes, because the body was naked, there's always going to be an assumption it was sexual violence. And this young lady had abrasions and contusions that were indicative of sexual trauma.
But as investigators continued to process the area, they noticed some clues that didn't fit.
Were there any signs of struggle at the crime scene?
No, there was not.
There was blood on the clothing, which indicated that she was murdered prior to being unclothed.
The gunshot wound was to the back of her head, suggesting that she did not even know it was coming.
Looked like an execution.
And there was another clue that raised suspicions. Investigators noted the unmistakable smell of bleach, often used to destroy DNA.
What did that indicate to you?
Well, that indicated to me that the suspect was trying to throw the investigators off.
The garbage bag over the victim's head, as well as the body's proximity to the Mexican border, raised new concerns.
It was discussed that possibly the cartel might have had something to do with the murder.
Could the young woman have been murdered by sadistic drug lords who had tried to cover their tracks? Police hope that a wallet found along with the victim's clothing might help them answer that question.
Investigators found her billfold, and inside the billfold were items that helped them to identify her as being Inez Santa Cruz from Arizona.
What did they learn about her?
They learned that she was a nurse at a hospital in Tucson and a Navy reservist in the military.
Police were puzzled. Inez was more than 700 miles from her Tucson home and seemed an unlikely victim for this type of crime.
Do they have any understanding of how she ended up in such a remote place?
They had no idea why she was there or how she got there.
Investigators now had a lot of questions for the men who had found Inez.
Could investigators find any ties between the hunters and the victim?
Only the proximity of the victim to the hunters.
According to the hunters, they did not know who Inez was.
In fact, those at the scene offered little that advanced the investigation.
Did any of the hunters report hearing gunfire that morning in the area?
They did, but that would not have been unusual at all. The whole scene was odd. I mean, here's a woman out literally in the middle of nowhere. There's hunters nearby, They separated them, they asked them questions. That led the investigators to realize, well, we're gonna have to do some more work on this.
Would the jumble set of puzzle pieces start to fit together after detectives spoke with Inez Santa Cruz's loving family? The brutal murder of 27-year-old Inez Santa Cruz had little to go on. They hoped that the Naval Reservist's autopsy report might provide a new lead. Instead, the findings only added mysterious new details, starting with the odd test results from Inez's blood. What did the toxicology report indicate?
She had the presence of benzodiazepines in her system. A very strong dose of Xanax, basically.
The large amount of sedative was surprising. It didn't fit with any of the other aspects of the brutal crime.
It was just another piece of the puzzle they were trying to put together.
The medical examiner's sexual assault exam also told an unexpected story.
The autopsy revealed no DNA evidence that would be consistent with a sexual assault.
What did they make of that?
Once he knew she was dead, he removed her clothing. He wanted to make it look like a sexual assault.
Police were convinced that whoever murdered Inez had gone out of his way to leave evidence that muddied the true motive of the crime. But why? When officers arrived to deliver the heartbreaking death notification to Inez's family, they had few specific details to offer. When did you find out that something tragic had happened?
It was Sunday morning. An officer gave me the news that they had found her.
They said they found Inez's body. I just started banging the wall. It was just horrible. I just couldn't believe it. It was like my life went blank.
And I was like, what do you mean found? Like, what happened? I really thought it was like an accident.
Erica Santa Cruz told police that her sister Inez had been kind-hearted and humble.
What is it that you most respected about her?
What I respected about her was each accomplishment. It was as if it was nothing. She never bragged about what she had done. She was just so down to earth.
One of those achievements was a successful enlistment in the U.S. Navy. It was there as a corpsman that Inez learned the skills she needed to become a top surgical assistant.
She had just been chosen to do an open heart surgery. That was one of the first ones that was going to be done in Tucson, Arizona.
She loved it. She loved helping people.
Inez could have worked anywhere, but she had chosen to settle down in Tucson so she could be close to her family.
How would you describe where she was in her life at the time of this tragedy?
Inez seemed to be very happy. She had many, many friends. I was so proud of her.
Letty and Erica told police there was no reason for Inez to be in the remote area where she was found. As far as they knew, she was supposed to be spending that weekend with her friend Rosa Medina in San Antonio.
Rosa had a photo shoot to do, and she didn't have anybody to help her with her daughters.
Inez had planned on babysitting Rosa's two daughters while Rosa did photography at a wedding.
Police quickly followed up on the lead.
What happened when investigators reached out to Rosa?
She told investigators that although her and Inez initially had plans that weekend, that Inez had canceled her trip.
Rosa was devastated to hear that her friend had been murdered. she and Inez's family were quick to point police to a potential suspect. What did investigators find out?
The investigators were told about a co-worker, a naval cadet, and evidently he was pretty sweet on her and made her uncomfortable, so much that Inez had told her sister that, hey, if anything happens to me, you need to look at him.
It was investigators' first big lead.
Did you think it was possible he could have been involved?
Yes.
Did you think he was in love with her?
He was. He was becoming a little too controlling for her.
Investigators immediately set about tracking down Inez's former Navy coworker. But when they found him, the promising lead became a dead end. He had been on duty over Labor Day weekend.
They checked his whereabouts during the time of the murder and found out that he wasn't anywhere close to Texas, so they ruled him out pretty fast.
Investigators were back at square one with challenging questions to answer. How did Inez Santa Cruz end up dead at an isolated campsite in Texas? And who had a motive to kill her? Police trying to solve the murder of Inez Santa Cruz still couldn't understand why she was in the secluded area of Texas where she was killed. That led them to dig deeper into Inez's relationship with Rosa Medina, the only person she knew in the Lone Star State. Some aspects of the long-term friendship raised new questions.
Rosa had a pretty troubled background, and so Inez's mother helped raise Rosa. Rosa was living with them while they were in high school.
I did always accept Rosa as like my daughter. She'd call me Mom. Very respectful young lady.
My parents' house was always open for everyone, so she would stay with us.
But what really caught investigators' attention was that their friendship had actually been something more.
I noticed that Rosa did have a crush on Inez, but she knew that I was against any type of relationship. If it did happen, it happened behind my back.
They actually started their romantic relationship when they were in high school.
I don't think. I would say they fell in love. My sister was just one of those people who, whether it was love or just a friendship, she was always going to be there for everyone.
After Inez left home for the Navy, her family believed the couple had drifted apart.
It looked like she had moved on from the relationship with Rosa.
But Inez and Rosa remained close, even as Rosa struggled through a failed relationship that left her a single mother of 2 young girls.
Rosa would be gone for 2-3 years, and then she'd show back up, bring the kids over. Always kept in touch one way or another.
The new information about the nature of Rosa's relationship with Inez led the Texas Rangers to bring her in for a formal interview.
You and Inez Santa Cruz are girlfriends?
Yes.
She was supposed to come down this Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
But she told you she wasn't going to be able to come like Thursday, right?
Yeah, because on Wednesday she sent me the itinerary for the flight. Next day, which was Thursday, that's when she texted me that she wasn't going to be able to come.
Investigators read the text message Inez sent Rosa.
I'm not going to be able to go. So after that, you're not expecting her.
Yeah.
In fact, Inez's cancellation forced Rosa to change all of her holiday weekend plans. Instead of doing the photo shoot she had scheduled, she went to a concert with her kids.
She had recorded footage of the concert on her phone. There was no question that she was at this concert.
The evidence had police ready to accept Rosa's story, but there was one detail that just didn't fit. According to the airlines, Inez Santa Cruz had actually boarded her flight that weekend, just as she had originally planned.
She flew Southwest Airlines from Tucson to San Antonio.
Was Rosa confronted with the fact that Inez had gotten on the plane?
She was.
What was her reaction?
She said she had no idea what had happened.
We best friends, and I want you to solve this, and anything I can do to help with. That's why I'm here, so that you can find out what happened.
You don't know anything.
No.
You're not holding nothing back.
No.
Sure.
Yes.
So far, everything Rosa had told police had only deepened the mystery. But before detectives ended the interview, her answer to a routine question would give the investigation a very clear focus. Friend Rosa Medina had shared everything she knew about the case when a routine question about Troy Ryder, the hunter who had discovered Inez, changed everything.
How did his name come up in the first place?
They asked her about Troy Ryder because he was at the scene where Inez was murdered.
Did Rosa reveal anything that advanced the investigation?
Yes.
The most shocking thing that they found out was Rosa knew Troy Ryder for approximately 3 months.
Police were stunned. And when they told Rosa he had found Inez's body, she appeared to be as surprised as they were.
What? No. No. That's not right. They shouldn't know each other. They don't. I need to know what happened.
Troy didn't talk to you about this?
No.
Rosa immediately told police everything she could about her relationship with Troy Ryder, including a detail she was desperate to keep hidden from her friends and family: how she and Troy had met.
She revealed that she knew him through the adult club where she was a dancer.
You know, I'm an entertainer. Nobody knows. Nobody. I don't want anybody to know that.
Rosa insisted the relationship was platonic, but admitted she had seen Troy outside of the club.
She had established a friendship with him, and they had gone to lunch a few times.
Troy ever been to your house?
No.
Investigators pressed Rosa about whether Troy had ever met Inez, or if he knew that she and Inez had a romantic history.
Did he know you have a girlfriend, or that you...
No. Nobody here. Everybody that knew about me and Inez is in Arizona.
Sure, because I have a hard time seeing a coincidence of Ness coming down from Arizona, not knowing Troy, and Troy finding her dead at the place where he hunts. I'm not saying he killed her. There's just something that's very curious.
Suddenly, everything police knew about Inez's murder had to be viewed through a different lens.
Once investigators had established that Rosa Medina knew Troy, how did they go about investigating him?
At that point, he was a suspect in the murder.
And that meant re-interviewing the hunters who had been with him the night before Inez had been killed.
When Troy showed up at my camp, he had stated that he was out looking for a place to go dove hunting. One thing I found peculiar was he was not dressed in hunting clothes. He was in a dress cowboy shirt, blue jeans. He didn't have any camping gear.
When police dug deeper into Troy's activities that weekend, what struck them?
That he had been woefully unprepared for a hunting weekend out in the desert.
He was there to hunt birds, And he didn't bring a shotgun, which you would normally use to hunt birds. He brought a .22 rifle.
That was the same caliber rifle as the one used to kill Inez. That convinced investigators that Troy Ryder had not visited the campsite to hunt. He had been there to murder Inez Santa Cruz. And they quickly got additional evidence to support their theory from the U.S. Border Patrol.
Law enforcement ran his plate, and they saw where it had gone through a Border Patrol checkpoint. They were able to pull a photograph of the vehicle, and it showed Troy Ryder in his truck with a female.
The woman was small and had dark hair like Inez. Can you make out Inez's face in that surveillance video?
No, ma'am, you cannot. But Mr. Ryder had said that he had gotten out to the campsite by himself.
It seemed like all the pieces were rapidly coming together. Police felt they now had enough to confront Ryder face to face.
Investigators visited with him, hoping to get a confession from him.
Did he admit to knowing Inez?
No, ma'am. He said he didn't know Inez. He claimed that he had picked a hitchhiker up on the highway and he had given her a ride to Brackettville, Texas.
Detectives were confident that Ryder was lying, and cameras that captured Inez getting off her flight in San Antonio provided proof.
What did the surveillance video actually show at the airport when Inez landed?
There are cameras located throughout the airport. It showed her leaving the arrivals area, walking through the baggage claim area.
And Troy Ryder was there, waiting to meet her.
Mr. Ryder had actually made a little cardboard sign that said Inez on it. There's a short conversation between the two of them. The next surveillance we have is of the two of them walking out to the parking area next to each other, with Inez being in no visible state of distress or anything like that.
Police were puzzled. Why would Inez have willingly left the airport with a man she had never even met? A man they now believe shot her to death less than 24 hours later. Evidence that documented Inez Santa Cruz being lured out of the San Antonio airport was chilling even for veteran investigators like Pamela Elliott.
The weirdest part of this that kind of gave me the creeps was to watch him stand in the corner in baggage and watch her walk. But it was like a lion stalking its prey.
Prosecutors were confident that the case police had compiled proved Troy Ryder was a sadistic killer. Investigators quickly took Ryder into custody.
Hey, put your hands on the wall. We're going to work your wrist. Right hand behind your back. And your left.
He was initially charged with capital murder. Capital murder in Texas is punishable by either life in prison without parole or the death penalty.
At first, Ryder tried to stonewall police, but the possibility of the death penalty forced him to reconsider.
I guess Troy had sit in jail long enough. He was ready to confess and go ahead and give information.
Police still had no idea why Ryder had targeted Inez. And the story he shared was shocking. He claimed that Rosa Medina, Inez's best friend and lover, was the real mastermind of the crime.
She came over to my house
simple. She had said that she wanted her gone. She didn't care how. She wanted her gone and out of her life.
Those are her words?
Yes.
I mean, and you're clear that she means dead?
Yes. Out of her life, gone, done with.
Police were skeptical. Why would Rosa want Inez dead? Ryder's answer was stunning.
Rosa told Troy that Inez was blackmailing her and threatening her to tell Rosa's family that Rosa was a stripper and Rosa was afraid she was going to lose her 2 daughters.
The story was a lie. The investigation revealed that Rosa's family already knew she was a dancer, and there was no threat of losing her children. But there was a simple reason why Ryder never questioned it.
What Ryder explained was that he wanted a relationship with Rosa Medina, and that Rosa Medina had said that while she would like that, there was this roadblock, and this roadblock was Inez.
Rosa told Ryder the only way for them to be together was for him to execute her murderous plan.
She provided me with the airplane information from her. She showed me on her phone, told me to get her in my truck.
Rosa also gave Ryder the story that persuaded Inez to leave the airport with him. He told her that Rosa had sent him.
She doesn't question you one bit?
No, she didn't question me at all.
But not all of the plot worked as planned. Rosa had supplied Ryder with what she believed was a deadly dose of Xanax.
She handed them to me, and I says, well, how am I supposed to give these to her? And she says, put it in her tea. I crushed them up inside the package, dumped it in a tea, mixed it up.
In the truck, Ryder gave Inez the spiked drink.
She got in the truck, and I says, there's an iced tea for you. I don't have AC, which was the truth. She was drinking her tea.
Ryder then drove Inez to the campsite. When they arrived, he expected that it was just a matter of time until she was dead. But the overdose of pills wasn't fatal. When Ryder returned from a night of drinking with the hunters he had met, he came back to his trailer to find Inez alive, awake, and furious with Rosa.
She was all pissed off. She's like, God damn it, where the is she? She's gonna get it. And I says, well, have you tried to call her?
At that point, he convinced her to call Rosa, and her friend would explain everything.
Ryder explained there was a spot a few hundred yards away where she could get reception.
He said that while she was on the rock trying to call Rosa, he retrieved his .22 rifle out of a Suburban and shot her in the back of the head.
The weapon that you shot her with is the weapon that you consensually gave us at your house?
Yes, sir.
As part of his confession, police took Ryder to the crime scene.
Today's date is 12/10/2012. The time is 5:35.
Where he walked investigators through the final moments of the attack.
Walk up here like this. I then grabbed the rifle, I turned with my right arm and I held it out. I was approximately like right about here. She started to turn a little bit and that's when I fired the first shot. I loaded one more round and with her down on the ground, I shot her again in the back of the head.
Ryder claimed it was his idea to stage the scene to look like a sexually motivated cartel hit.
And then you stripped her clothes off.
Yeah, after I stripped the clothes off, I drove down to the campsite. I knew there was bleach. I brought it up and I put it on her. That's when I heard the four-wheeler coming up.
Ryder may have done more to stage the scene if he hadn't been interrupted by the arrival of the hunters. Detectives still couldn't understand why Ryder would murder a woman he didn't even know.
So what really made this sound like a good idea?
She said that we'd be together.
She's that pretty?
To me, yes.
So what I'm hearing you're telling me is that you had the chance of creating a relationship with a woman, and to do that, you're willing to kill somebody.
Yeah, I know it sounds stupid. I really do.
You can't be that lonely.
Actually, yeah. I drove up, came up that way, came around.
The disturbing confession closed the case against Troy Ryder. He got a 75-year sentence in exchange for his guilty plea. But investigators knew their job was far from done, and bringing the mastermind of the crime to justice wouldn't be easy. What evidence did you have against Rosa Medina?
The evidence against Rosa Medina was scant at best. The primary evidence was Troy Ryder's statement. That is not enough to indict somebody, much less convict somebody of murder.
Still, police hoped that one day they could support Troy Ryder's confession with physical evidence. And it would take a decade of improvements in digital forensic science to uncover a trail of clues Rosa believed to be buried forever. In the end, what was the most indicting evidence that came out of the advances in technology?
They were able to get deleted text messages, and those text messages showed communications between Inez and Rosa on September 1st, 2012. Those messages showed Inez saying that she was getting on the plane and that she would see her soon.
It was concrete evidence that Medina knew Inez was flying that day, and that she had the information to give to Troy Ryder. And there was more.
The second component were the deleted web searches on Rosa's phone. Some of those web searches were for things like, how do you slip a Mickey to somebody? How to make untraceable phone calls.
Each of those details were part of the murder plot, and each was corroborated by the testimony of Medina's accomplice, Troy Ryder. Dorian Kotler believed it was enough to issue a warrant for her arrest.
Hey, Rosa, you're under arrest for murder.
Excuse me?
Yeah, that's just what I said. You're under arrest for murder, but Ronnie is sent to you.
No.
You don't have a choice yet.
No, you have this all wrong.
No,
You have
wrong.
this all wrong. So you have this all wrong.
She showed no empathy, just complete denial and a lack of acceptance of responsibility.
But when Assistant Attorney General Dorian Kotler finished showing her the evidence, Rosa Medina agreed to plead guilty to manslaughter. She was sentenced to 18 years behind bars. And Inez's family saw the plea deal as a blessing.
Took a lot off my shoulders because I didn't want to have to hear anything from her or see her. It's not gonna give me my daughter back.
Rosa Medina has never offered a confession, but police have a theory of the crime. They believe that Medina was still in love with Inez, and when Inez decided to settle down in Arizona, It ended her last hope of them sharing a life together. Rather than accept Inez's choice, Medina became enraged and saw Troy Ryder as a tool she could use for vengeance.
She dances for a living in an adult club. She knows what sells. She knows how to manipulate people. She was never gonna enter into a relationship with Troy Ryder. She used him.
How many levels of betrayal are there in this story?
Rosa was very close with Inez's family. She had been brought into their home. It's a massive betrayal on the part of Rosa Medina.
A betrayal that has left many wounds that will never heal.
Do you ever think you'll make sense of what happened to Inez?
No, I won't. We won't. Every day is a battle. Every single day we wake up.
How do you keep Inez's memory alive?
There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about her. She'll live on with us forever.